A very good morning to one and all. Welcome to TATVAPRABODHINI Day-3 fourth scientific session on November 6th, 2020. I heartily welcome all the delegates, viewers, and I also welcome today's speaker, Dr. Adarsh. Dr. Adarsh has completed his undergraduation from STM College of Ayurveda, Hassan, Karnataka in 2002, and post-graduation MD in Agadatantra from VPSV Ayurveda College, Kottakkal in 2006. He has also completed PG Diploma in Yoga. Sir has UG undergraduation teaching experience of 13 years and post-graduation teaching experience of 3 years. Sir has also been actively involving in presenting research papers in national level seminars. His fields of interest are Ayurveda toxicology, literary research, analytical research, and therapeutic yoga. At present, he is working as associate professor and head of the Department of Agadatantra, Government Ayurveda Medical College, Mysuru. Sir, please continue with the session, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bharat. So, good morning, one and all. So, my presentation is on autopsy findings in COVID-19 related. So, as we all know, so in December 2019, in Wuhan, China, the first case of coronavirus was reported. So, then public health emergency of international concern was declared in January 2020. So then later on, in March 2020, COVID-19 was declared as pandemic, as it was found in more than 200 countries around the world. And as of today, so there are around 48 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the world, and 1.2 million deaths are recorded in the world. And as of today in India, so there are around 83,64,000 of confirmed COVID-19 cases, and also 1,24,000 deaths due to COVID-19 are reported. So it is almost a year, so but still the pathology of COVID-19 is enigma. So it is a hidden truth, and lot of speculations are going on about the pathology of COVID-19. So autopsies are an essential tool for understanding new diseases. So even in the past, autopsy was used to understand the diseases like HIV/AIDS, rabies, tuberculosis, and other diseases. So next COVID-19 numbers is on 6/11/2020. So around the world, as I already told, so it is around more than 4 crores. Then US tops the list of COVID-19 in the world with 94 lakh cases. So India stands second in the COVID-19 cases around the world. And also the deaths are also more than 12,24,000 in the world. So coming to India, at present 83,64,000 cases are reported as of today. So among this, the Maharashtra state leads with highest number of cases, and the Karnataka is in the second place. In India also, there are around 1,24,000 deaths are reported as of today. So first we will begin with the case report. So in February 2020, Xu et al. From China described the case of a man who experienced 14 days of progressive respiratory symptoms and died due to sudden cardiac arrest during an episode of respiratory failure, and the oxygen saturation was around 60%. So then later on, the lungs biopsy showed early DAD, it is diffuse alveolar disease with hyaline membranes and edema. The interstitium was infiltrated by lymphocytes and pneumocytes manifested cytopathic changes suggested viral damage. So this was the finding in the lung biopsy. Then no peculiar alterations of the myocardium were observed in the biopsy of the heart. Then liver tissue, microvesicular steatosis, which is collection of the fats and the hepatocytes, and a non-specific feature that could not be directly correlated with the virus. So this was the finding in the liver. Then the authors suggested that the overactivation of the T cells could be partially responsible for the immune system damage. So this was the first reported case from China about COVID-19. So next is the autopsies on COVID-19 disease. So whether autopsy is necessary to conduct on COVID-19 dead patients. So the answer is absolutely yes. We have to conduct autopsy on COVID-19 disease. Why means COVID-19 pathology remains incompletely understood. So as I already told, still speculations are going on around the world for the pathology, for understanding pathology of COVID-19. So for better understanding, we have to do autopsy on COVID-19 death. Then death can teach us not only about the disease, it might help with its prevention and treatment. So for better understanding of the disease and also to know the mode of spread and the preventive measures and for treatment protocol, to plan the treatment protocol also, it helps. Then as a result of autopsy observation, the treatment regimen for COVID-19 has changed. So after doing number of autopsies on COVID-19 deaths, the treatment regimen for the present COVID-19 is changing. So we know why anticoagulants are introduced at present. So that is also based on the autopsy observations. Then autopsies are an essential tool for understanding new diseases. So whenever there is a emergence of new diseases, new virus, then for better understanding of the disease, so we need autopsies. So next coming to the autopsy room hazards. So conducting autopsy on an infectious dead body is not an easy task. Why means it carries a lot of hazards. So high risk autopsy is the postmortem examination of the deceased person who has had or is likely to have had a serious infectious disease that can be transmitted to those present at the autopsy and thereby causing them serious illness and premature death. So that means the infection from the dead body may be transmitted to the people present during autopsy, maybe doctors or even the workers who handle the dead body. So autopsy room carries results. So the Advisory Committee on Dangerous Pathogens, that is ACDP, has classified these infectious pathogens into 4 groups. So in group 1, the pathogens not likely to lead to diseases in the humans. And in group 2, pathogens may lead to human disease and risk to employees, but not likely to spread to other humans. So it may lead to human disease and risk to employees, but may not likely to spread to other humans. So that means community spread is not there. And prophylactic measures and treatment are generally accessible for these type of pathogens. Group 2. So usually antibiotic resistant organisms comes under group 2. And in group 3 pathogens, they may lead to severe human disease and can be a significant risk to employees. So this is very important. These pathogens leads to severe human disease and can be a significant risk to the employees. It can spread to other humans. That means here there is a community spread and there is a prophylactic measures and treatment is also generally accessible to these organisms. So in this group, HIV, hepatitis B, C, and even dengue virus, all these comes under group 3. Then group 4, the pathogens leads to severe human disease and poses a significant risk to employees. So just like group 3, and it is likely to spread to other humans. Community spread is there, and there is no prophylaxis. That is the difference between group 3 and 4 pathogens. There is no prophylactic measures are available, and there is no treatment are generally accessible to group 4 pathogens. So example includes the Ebola virus for group 4 pathogens. So next coming to the hazard group 3 pathogens. So this group of pathogens are very important for us. So some of the pathogens which come under HG3 group are rabies, Lissa virus, MERS, that is Middle East respiratory syndrome, then SARS, acute hemorrhagic conjunctivitis, polio virus, chikungunya, dengue, Japanese encephalitis, tick-borne fever, yellow fever, hepatitis B, C, D, and E, monkeypox, HIV 1 and 2. And the latest addition to this HG3 group is COVID-19. So that's why this group is very important for us. So next coming to the infections in autopsy room may be acquired by any one of the following. So this is also very important, how the infection can spread from dead bodies in the mortuary. So a wound resulting from an object, it may be scalpel or needle, contaminated with blood body fluids which contains the pathogens. So through this route also the pathogens may enter our body. Then splash of contaminated with blood body fluids on an open wound or area of dermatitis. So this is also one of the common symptoms. Splash of contaminated blood and body fluids on open dermatitis, skin diseases. So then contact of contaminated blood, body fluids with mucous membranes of the eyes, nose, and mouth. So this is also one of the route. Then inhalation and ingestion of aerosolized particles. So this is also one of the commonest route. Inhalation and ingestion of the aerosolized particles. We already know the coronavirus spreads through these routes. So inhalation is the most common route of spreading of the coronavirus. So next for that only, so there is a standard autopsy protocol. So to prevent the transmission of virus from the dead body to the people who handle the dead body and the pathologist, doctors who conduct the autopsy. So they are also known as universal work precautions. So here is a list of minimum personal protective equipment, that is PPE, in suspect coronavirus disease. So it contains surgical scrubs, scrub hat, clear face visor. So here you can see the clear face visor. Then waterproof gown to cover whole body and forearms, surgical gown. So here you can see that. Then plastic apron, rubber boots with metal toe caps. Here you can see that. Then protective Kevlar or neoprene cut resistant undergloves, single-use disposable non-latex gloves, and also addition to this, cold plate and molded protection mask or whole body suit is very much necessary, and these should be always used while conducting autopsy. So this is the standard SOPs to conduct autopsy on COVID-19 disease. So next coming to the review of literature on COVID-19 related death autopsy. So as on 3rd September 2020, so there were 341 autopsies were conducted on COVID-19 disease around the world, and they are published in the reputed journal. So among these 341, 297 autopsies were completed. So that means all the 3 major body cavities were examined, that is thorax, abdomen, and cranium. So out of 341, 297 were complete autopsy, and the remaining 44 were minimally invasive autopsy. That means only the biopsy of some organs like lungs, heart, liver, kidney, spleen were extracted and studied. So that is minimally invasive autopsy. So this is as on 3rd September. So next is COVID-19 autopsy series around the world. So it is almost a year. All the countries are expecting the treatment and trying to understand the pathology of COVID-19. So every country is trying to understand the COVID-19 pathology, and also they have tried doing autopsy on COVID-19 dead bodies. So Germany has conducted autopsy on 80 cases. So it was complete autopsy on 80 cases. Even other countries, followed by Italy, 38 cases, and Brazil, 31 cases. Even US, America has conducted more than 24 cases. The highest number of autopsies were conducted by the Germany. It was around 100 plus autopsy were conducted on COVID-19. So these are the countries which conducted autopsy on COVID-19 disease around the world. So as far as India is concerned, only Gujarat government has given permission to conduct autopsy on COVID-19 disease. So, but still the findings are not yet published in any journal. So that's why we don't have the statistics of Indian autopsy cases. So next coming to the pathological findings in COVID-19 disease. So the first organ infected is the lungs. So the macroscopic findings in the lungs were increased in volume. So you can see in this picture. So the normal structure is lost. It is increased in volume, form edematous and congested. So form edematous and congested with diffuse pleural thickening and pleural effusion. So was found in the lungs. So it was increased in the size and the consistency is also changed, form edematous and congested. So then cut surface showed consolidation of the lobes and red congested areas with thickening of the interstitial septa and pulmonary ring. So after cutting the lungs into small pieces, so there was consolidated lobes were identified and red congested areas were identified and thickening of the interstitial septa along with pulmonary ring. Then subsegmental pulmonary embolism was also find out in the COVID-19 disease lungs. So these are all the macroscopic findings. So next coming to the microscopic findings in the lungs. Parenchymal multifocal damages, intra-alveolar, exudative and proliferative inflammation consistent with a diagnosis of diffuse alveolar damage. So this was the commonest finding in all cases of the COVID-19 disease. Diffuse alveolar damage, DAD. Then pneumonia with fibrosis and type 2 pneumocyte hyperplasia. Large nuclei and prominent nucleoli were indicative of cytopathic virus induced change. So these are also the findings, microscopic findings in the lungs. Pneumonia with fibrosis of the lungs, and pneumocyte hyperplasia also. So alveolar duct fibrosis, pleural fibrosis, vascular injury with thrombi and vasculitis. So this is also one of the microscopic findings in the lab. Then thrombi were present in the alveoli. So then immunohistochemistry showed the presence of platelet aggregates and megakaryocytes within the thrombi. So this is also one very important finding. So based on these findings only now anticoagulants were introduced. So thrombus, presence of the thrombus in the lungs. So now coming to the findings in the heart. So macroscopic findings are the hearts in all patients showed increased size and weight. So just like in lungs, here also in heart there is the size is increased, weight is also increased, and hypertrophy. Dilatation of the left and right atria and ventricles was also found in 22 cases. Hypertrophy, dilatation of the left, right atrium ventricles. Then the myocardium appeared pale, flabby, and endocardium showed punctate petechial hemorrhages. Microscopic findings are hypertrophy of myocytes. So this hypertrophy means increase in the cell size. Trophy, the size is increased. Hypertrophy of myocytes, then and variable degrees of interstitial and vascular fibrosis is also found. Active myocarditis and pericarditis is also one of the microscopic findings in the heart. So next coming to the findings in liver. The macroscopic findings are so parenchyma congestion. So congestion of the liver parenchyma is also one of the macroscopic findings. So in 22 cases, the congestion was reported. So the microscopic findings are sinusoidal congestion and extravasation of the RBCs. Extravasation of the RBCs in the hepatocytes. Then congestion of small veins and hepatocyte necrosis. Congestion of small veins and hepatocyte necrosis is also found out, and macrovascular and microvascular steatosis. So steatosis is the collection of fat in the hepatocytes. So this was also observed microvascular steatosis in 4 cases. So then coming to the macroscopic findings in the kidney. So kidneys have normal shape with reduced volume and size. So here the size volume of the kidney is reduced. So it is just opposite to the findings of lungs and heart. So volume is reduced, it is also reduced in 22 cases. And outer surface shows reddish depressions on the kidney. Microscopic findings are interstitial fibrosis with swollen glomerular endothelial cells. In 4 cases, interstitial fibrosis was reported in 4 cases. And chronic tubular interstitial inflammation and glomerular sclerosis is also reported in microscopic study. So now coming to the other organs, spleen and bone marrow. So under spleen has normal shape but reduced volume and size, just like kidney. The volume is reduced, the size is also reduced. In 22 cases, then lymphoid hyperplasia with congested red pulp is found. Under bone marrow, microscopic analysis of the bone marrow generally show replacement of the red hematopoietic bone marrow with yellow adipocyte-rich marrow. So here, the red hematopoietic is replaced with the yellow adipocytes in 18 cases. This is also the significant finding. Then megakaryocytes hyperplasia is also reported in 4 cases. So to sum up the histological findings, so in 18 cases, in group 1, 18 cases, we had comorbidities. So in that, lung findings of around 61% reported hyperplasia of type 2 pneumocytes and 72% reported inflammatory cells in the lungs and 77% microthrombi. Then 44% vasculitis was reported in group 1 lung findings. Then coming to the cardiac findings, around 50% of the cases with myocarditis was found and 72% inflammatory infiltrate was found and 50% cases pericarditis was found. So then liver changes, 50% of the cases hepatic steatosis, collection of the fat was found. So kidney findings, so around 50% of the inflammatory infiltrate. So interstitial fibrosis is also reported. So then spleen and bone marrow, 83% of the cases congested red pulp is reported. So in group 2 here, the case, there were 4 cases without comorbidities. So here, the findings are little different from group 1. So here, almost 100% of the cases have hyperplasia of type 2 pneumocyte and alveolar lung. was reported, and DAD, diffuse alveolar damage was found out in 25% of the cases, and in 50% of the cases, microthromboid and multinucleated giant cells was reported. So like that in heart, so all the cases reported pericarditis. So it is 100%. You can see that 100% pericarditis and myocarditis, vasculitis is 75% of the cases. So then under liver, hepatic steatosis, inflammatory infiltrate was found in 75% of the cases. So under kidney findings, interstitial fibrosis was reported in all 4 cases. And congested red pulp, lymphadenopathy in all the cases. And in bone marrow, megakaryocyte hyperplasia was reported in 2 cases. So these are some of the histological findings. So next coming to the macroscopic findings of the organs. So here you can see the heavy congested lung in one of the COVID-19 disease dead body. The lung is heavy and congested. So in picture 2, so there is patchy pleural surface with segmental hyperplasia was reported. Patchy pleural surface with segmental hyperemia. So hyperemia is increased blood circulation. So you can see here this picture hyperemia. Then thrombosis of the deep vein of the lower extremity. This is also one of the very common finding in COVID-19 disease person, DVT. So popular known as DVT, that is deep vein thrombosis. It was found in many of the disease, COVID-19 disease. So here you can see the thrombosis in deep veins of the lower extremity. So next, pulmonary embolism. So this is also found in almost all the cases. Pulmonary embolism. So here you can see the dark areas of the pulmonary embolism. So gross findings of the lungs and heart. Lungs with bilateral pulmonary edema and patches of dark hemorrhages. So here you can see the bilateral pulmonary edema and patches of dark hemorrhages. Here you can see the patches of dark hemorrhages. Then, so picture B. So here the cut sections of the lung shows presence of the thrombus in the peripheral small vessels. So here, arrow you can see the peripheral small vessel thrombus. So here it is enlarged in picture presence of the thrombus in peripheral small vessels. So here in picture C, the heart showing extreme right ventricular dilatation. So here you can see the right ventricular dilatation. The size is increasing. So with straightening of the intraventricular septum, straightening of the intraventricular septum is also found. So these are some of the macroscopic findings of the COVID-19 disease. So some of the typical histological findings in COVID-19. So they are lung tissue showed edema, early stage DAD. So diffuse alveolar disease. So here you can see the diffuse alveolar disease with hyaline membranes and intra-alveolar hemorrhages. Intra-alveolar hemorrhages also found. Then lung microvascular thromboid, capillary condition, and edema DAD. So in this figure, you can see the microvascular thromboid in the lung. So these are the microscopic findings in the So other findings are exudative phases in the alveoli. Then microvascular thromboid also found in the lung. So some of the histological findings. So this is the one more study on 17 COVID-19 dead bodies. So out of 17, except 2, all the remaining 15 cases, they found out diffuse alveolar damage. So except 2, remaining 15 cases, they found out diffuse alveolar damage, then lung microthrombosis, followed by lung infarct, Then acute bronchopneumonia. So these are the findings in the lungs, histological findings in the lungs. Then coming to the cardiac findings, ischemic cardiomyopathy was observed in 15 out of 17 cases. Ischemic cardiomyopathy. Then cardiac fibrosis is also observed in some of the cases. Then coming to the liver findings, congestive hepatopathy is also observed in almost 50% of the cases, and hepatic steatosis is observed in more than 60% of the cases. Then kidney findings are hemosiderin renal tubules and pigmented renal calcium was observed in more than 80% of the cases. So bone marrow changes, bone marrow hyperplasia was observed in almost 14 cases. Then these are the findings in the brain. Cerebral spongiasis is the commonest finding in many cases, followed by cerebral edema. So these are the main histological findings in different organs. So next, the molecular detection of coronavirus in postmortem samples. So all the different organs of the body are also studied and for coronavirus. So here you can see out of 17 cases, in 16 cases, the SARS coronavirus was isolated. The method used was RT-PCR, reverse transcription, real-time polymerase chain reaction. RT-PCR test was conducted to detect virus from these organs. So, 16 cases, coronavirus from lungs was isolated. Then in the heart, 14 cases, the virus was isolated, and from liver, in 14 cases, virus was isolated, and from bowel, so here you can see bowel also, in 14 cases, virus was found. In spleen, in 11 cases, virus was found, and in kidney, in 10 cases, virus was found, and in brain, in 9 cases, virus was found. So this is the molecular detection of virus from different organs of the body. So it indicates that you can detect the virus from different organs. So let's come to the postmortem computed tomography. So that is PMCK findings in COVID-19. So in a multi-centric study, so in 101 COVID-19 disease person, so ground glass lung opacities were identified in 86% of the cases. Ground glass lung opacities in 86% of the cases. So here you can see the ground glass lung opacities. That means here the transparency is reduced. It is hazy compared to right lung. Here left lung it is hazy. Transparency is decreased. So it was found in 86% of the cases. And mixed ground glass and consolidation was found in 64% of the cases. So out of 101, in 64% of the cases, ground glass lung opacity along with consolidation is found. So here you can see the difference between normal lung, ground glass opacity and consolidation. So now in normal lung, there is a 100% transparency. In ground glass, the transparency is decreased. It is decreased, and in consolidation, it is almost. So this is the difference between normal, ground glass, and consolidation. Then vascular enlargement in 71% of the cases, and traction bronchiectasis in 53% of the cases. The changes were more likely to be bilateral, peripherally distributed, involving the lower. So this is the commonest finding in all COVID-19 disease. So lungs bilateral, both the lungs are involved and peripherally distributed. Mainly the lower lobes of the lungs are involved in COVID-19 cases. So this is also significant finding, PMCK finding from COVID-19 disease. So next, the key findings in autopsy. So as we know, autopsies were conducted and are conducting throughout the world. So here is the first study from Italy. In 38 cases, DAD was detected in all the cases. So 100% cases DAD was detected, that is diffuse alveolar disease. And in thrombosis, fibrin thrombi in small arteries were found in 33 cases. So this finding is from Italy. So then 12 autopsies reported from Germany. In that also 8 cases they found DAD, diffuse alveolar disease, and pulmonary embolism in 4 cases, DVT, deep vein thrombosis in 7 cases. Okay. So next, the one more finding from Brazil. So in 10 cases, they found diffuse alveolar disease in all the 10 cases. Fibrin thrombi in small arteries in 8 cases, small thrombi in glomerular, leaf valve and other organs. The next 4 studies from Austria. 10 cases they reported, so 11 cases they reported. In all the 11 cases, DAD was the finding, and bronchopneumonia in 6 cases. Fibrin thrombi in all the cases, pulmonary infarction in 8 cases. So, fifth study from America. So, they conducted autopsy on 7 cases. In all the cases, they found DAD. So, here you can see that DAD is the commonest finding between the alveolar disease and thrombi, thrombosis. Thrombosis is also the commonest finding in almost all the cases of the disease. So, this is the key findings of autopsy on COVID-19 disease. So, next coming to the conclusion. Autopsies are gold standard to identify the cause of death and study pathophysiology of the novel disease. So autopsies are the gold standard method to identify the cause of death and also to know the pathophysiology of any new disease. So in the past also, autopsies helped in understanding diabetes, HIV, hepatitis B, C, D, and other diseases. So like that here, to understand the COVID-19 pathology, autopsies are the gold standard method, and it is being adopted. And autopsy findings underline the heterogeneity of organisms. So now we came to know that all the organs of the body are infected by the coronavirus. And all the cases show varying degree of exudation corresponding to DAD, diffuse alveolar damage, distinct of ARDA. So almost all the cases, the commonest finding is the DAD. When compared with influenza lungs, COVID-19 lungs had a 9-fold more alveolar capillary thrombosis. So compared to influenza, so in COVID-19 lungs, so there is a 9-fold increase in capillary thrombosis. This is also one of the significant thrombotic events. Patients with COVID-19 who are the findings were similar. And a whole body complete autopsy studies from across wide range of geographical background, age, ethnic group, and comorbidities are required to define the complete spectrum of pathology in COVID-19. So that means the presently available data is not sufficient. So we need more data from wide range of geographical background and the ages, ethnic group, and comorbidities. So with this message, I would like to conclude my presentation. So prevention is always better than cure. So wear mask, wash your hands, and practice safe distance. Thank you one and all. And I also thank Dr. Pramod as well as Dr. Shivanand for the valuable inputs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful session. It was really very much helpful for our viewers to know about the autopsy findings in COVID-19 related deaths. Thank you, sir. Now, I request our next speaker of this session, Dr. Shreevathsa, to join for the presentation. Shreevathsa, sir, presently working as professor and head, PG Department of Ayurveda, Samhita and Siddhanta, Government Ayurveda Medical College, Mysuru. Sir has completed his BAMS in 1996 from GMC Mysuru, from Mysuru University. MD Ayu Samhita Siddhanta from uh, IPGT-RA, Gujarat Ayurveda University, Jamnagar in the year 2000. PG Diploma in Yoga, MSc in Clinical Nutrition and Dietetics from Karnataka State Open University, Vidvat in Carnatic music. Sir has teaching experience of 20 years in UG and post-graduation teaching. Sir has also been former member of Board of Studies PG, RGHS Bengaluru, and member of editorial board Ayush Journal RGHS Bengaluru. Now I request Dr. Shreevathsa sir to continue with the presentation.
नमस्ते। त्वमादिदेवः पुरुषं पुराणं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं ज्ञानम् त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनत्वं पुरुषं मतो मे सनातनत्वं पुरुषं मतो मे तुल्यनिन्दस्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः. Good morning, one and all. Knowledge and realization both are the two faces of same coin. Knowledge of the universe and the realization of a self are mandatory to lead the quality life. This is what reflected in the two hymns what I presented here. The first hymn is from Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, which speaks about supremacy of this universe, excellence of this universe, and potency of this universe. That is mandatory. It is the duty of human being to respect these qualities of the universe, realize these qualities of universe, and synchronize self with these qualities of universe. The second hymn is from Bhakti Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, which speaks about the excellence of individual. So the individual should have the balance between every emotion. The individual should have appropriate level of contentment. The individual should have detachment in attachment. That's what Aniketanam means. The person should have stable mind. So such person is respected and there is need of such person in this universe. When there is excellence of universe, when there is excellence of individual, when there is a synchronization between Purusha and Loka, certainly there will be harmony in this universe. In the present pandemic situation, there is need to consider these views. I started my talk with mantra and Sangeeta. Both are the components which are responsible to maintain the excellence of universe, excellence of individual, and synchronization. So the gati is going to be normalized through the Chikitsa forms like mantra and Sangeeta, which are evident in Ayurveda text, Charaka Samhita. With this background, let us try to understand the tattva of this webinar, that is Janapadodhwamsa, and Prabodhana. Through this tattva, let us get ignited about the anusthana of the same. I mean to say, the objective for my presentation is, at the end of this session, let us sensitize about the tattva, Janapadodhwamsa, and Prabodhini, that is anusthana. In the previous presentations, we realized the importance, the contributions of universal components like Desha, Jala, Kala, and how they are contributing, and Vata, how they are contributing in the maintenance of universal harmony, individual harmony, and if they are deranged, how they are going to become fatal. That point we already seen, we already discussed in the previous presentations. So with this background, let us try to understand what measures we are supposed to take to manage this particular pandemic with the perspective of Charaka Samhita. So the mission I'm going to complete today with this one. So we should know what Chikitsa is, what Ayurveda speaks about Chikitsa, that has to be known. And what is the association between the universe as well as the individual? Microcosm and macrocosm association should be known, which is very important one. And we are going to know about the principles of management of Janapadodhwamsa as narrated in Charaka Samhita. So mainly I'm focusing on these three components today, which are very essential to reconsider the management of present pandemic. So as I already Vikrita Jala, Vikrita Desha, Vikrita Vayu, and Vikrita Kala, which are contributing for disharmony, both at the level of microcosm as well as macrocosm at various levels. So with this background, first let us try to understand what Chikitsa is as per Ayurveda. We know the definition of Chikitsa, which has been mentioned in Charaka Samhita Sutrasthana, like Yabhihi, Kriyabhihi, Jayante, Sharire, Dhatavaha Samaha, Sa Chikitsa Vikaranam, Karma, Tat Bhishajam Smritam. So here, whatever the modes, whatever the measures we are incorporating for balancing the dhatus in the body are considered under Chikitsa. Now we get a technical question here. What is meant by dhatu? Because that is the key to know the concept of Chikitsa. So let us try to understand what is dhatu as per Charaka Samhita. So dhatu has been defined in Charaka Samhita Sharirasthana first chapter like this. Khadayah Chetana Shashtha Dhatvaha Purushah Smritaha. So Purusha is one who is the conglomeration of Panchamahabhuta as well as Chetana. So this is the first definition of Dhatu which has been provided in Charaka Samhita Sharirasthana first chapter. The second definition given for Purusha again in the same context, Dhatu again in the same context is Chetana Dhaturapyekah Smrutaha Purusha Samjakaha. So here the second opinion regarding Dhatu has been provided. It is Chetana Dhatu. So we will move on to the third definition which has been given in the same context. Punascha Dhatu Bhedena Chaturvimshatikah Smritaha Mano Dasha Indriyani Arthaha Prakritihi cha Ashtadhatuki. So there are 24 dhatus present in human being. So we come across with three different opinions for the concept of dhatu. One is Ekadhatu, second one is Shadhatu, third one is Chaturvimshati Dhatu. So there are three opinions provided by Charaka Samhita for dhatu, which we are supposed to know. Now the question arises, why we should know this concept of dhatu at this level? So let us try to see the synonyms of Chikitsa which are given in Chikitsa Sthana, first chapter of Charaka Samhita, that is Rasayana Pada. There it has been mentioned that Chikitsitam Vyadhiharam Pathyam Sadhanam Aushadham Prayaschittam Prashamanam Prakriti Hitam. So Chikitsa, Chikitsitam has been defined here with the different synonyms. So these different synonyms are providing comprehensive approach of Chikitsa, which has been explained in Charaka Samhita. So with this background, we will try to understand how Aushadha has been viewed in Charaka Samhita. So when we look into Tisraishaniyam Adhyayam of Charaka Samhita Sutrasthana, there Aushadha has been classified into three. First one is Daiva Vyapashrayam, second one is Yukti Vyapashrayam, third one is Sattva Vajeshcha. So we realized what dhatu is till now. Now we are trying to understand what Aushadha is as explained in Charaka Samhita. So we know the different modes of Daivapashraya like Mantra, Aushadha, Mani, Mangala and so on. There are different modes through which we are going to treat the patients like these modes. So such type of mode we call it as Daiva Vyapashraya. Second one is Yukti Vyapashrayam, which has been defined as Punaha Ahara Aushadha Dravyanam Yojana. So it is a proper execution of Ahara and Aushadha for the management of the disease. So this is the second mode of treatment which has been explained in the same context. The third one, Tattvavajaya, has been defined like Punaha Ahitebhyo Arthebhyo Mano Nigraha, regulating manas from its object which is not conducive. So these are the three modes of Chikitsa explained in Charaka Samhita Sutrasthana 11th chapter. Now the question arises, we come to know about three forms of dhatus, three classifications of dhatus, and we have three modes of treatment. Sorry, I should not use the word treatment for Chikitsa because Chikitsa is beyond treatment. But for the time being, I have considered treatment as Chikitsa here, that's it. So considering the three modes of Chikitsa, considering Trividha Dhatu explained in Charaka Samhita, let us revisit the concept of Chikitsa now. The concept of Ekadhatvatmaka Purusha, what we observed now, that is the source for the Daiva Vipashya Chikitsa which has been explained in Charaka Samhita. The concept of Shadhatvatmaka Purusha is the foundation for Yukti Vyapashya Chikitsa, whereas the concept of Chaturvimshatika Purusha is the source for Sattvavajaya Chikitsa. Let me repeat this, it is very important. Then we realize the comprehensive approach of management which has been explained in Ayurveda, especially in Charaka Samhita, which is applicable for present pandemic. Ekadhatvatmaka Purusha is the source for Daiva Vipashya Chikitsa, whereas Shadhatvatmaka Purusha is the foundation for Yukti Vipashya Chikitsa, whereas Chaturvimshatika Purusha is essential for Sattvavajaya Chikitsa. Let us keep this concept of Chikitsa in mind, which is the first component of my presentation. With this background, we will enter my second component of presentation, that is Loka Purusha Samya, which is the unique concept explained in Charaka Samhita. Many times the most neglected component also, but knowing Loka Purusha Samya is mandatory to know the concept of Janapadodhwamsa, which has been explained in Charaka Samhita once again in Vimanasthana. So when we link all these references, then it will be easy for us to understand the present pandemic situation. So with this background, let us enter to my second component of presentation, that is Loka Purusha Samya. So here it has been mentioned very beautifully that Purusho Ayam Loka Sammitaha Ityuvacha Bhagavan Punarvasuhu Atreyaha. So Purusha is miniature of this Loka. So the components which are present in Loka are represented or they are present in Purusha. So they are complementing and supplementing each other, which we are supposed to know. Whenever there is a deficit of any component in Purusha, that has to be supplemented by the component which is available in Loka. So that's why knowing the concept of Loka Purusha Samya at this context is very important one. So the same thing has been explained in the next verse, that is Yavanto hi loke bhava visheshaha tavantah purushe yavantah purushe tavanto loke. So whatever the components that are present in universe, all the universal components, they are present in Purusha or human being. So let us try to see these components superficially, because analyzing each component takes extensive time and it requires a lot of analysis. But for the present situation, I'm just putting one thought to think about this concept of Loka Purusha Samya. It's a very vast subject which we will discuss in some other form. But for the understanding of present pandemic, for facing the present pandemic and for realizing the present pandemic, there is need to know about the concept of Lokapurusha Samya. Only those points I'm going to highlight here. As I already mentioned, whatever the components they are present in universe like Panchamahabhutas, they are replicated and represented and reflected in Purusha. That has been mentioned here. Prithvi, Vayu, Jala, and all, they are present in different forms in Purusha. So what universe is having, same components they are present in human being. Similarly, universe is regulated by a force. Universe is regulated by an energy component. We call it as Brahma. Similarly, an individual is going to be regulated by Antaratma or Atma. So like this, the components of human being are related very appropriately. That is like one-to-one relation with the components of universe. So we have to know this, then managing any situation will be very easy for us. We are in a situation wherein the situation is created by human being. So human being, he created an irritation in the nature. So nature could not tolerate that irritation. In turn, nature shifted that irritation to the human being. That's why we are facing this pandemic. This is how the cascade of pathogenesis that started and that's continuing. So if we realize this one and if we take some remedial measures at this level, then managing the pandemic will be very easy for us. That's why not only knowing, in the beginning when I started my talk, I told about the two components. Knowing itself is not sufficient. So we should realize it, we should feel it, then only we will act. So that's why knowledge as well as realization, they should go hand in hand, which is the need of a present hour. Similarly, the different other components like Indriya, Sattva, they're also having regulatory component in universe, which has mentioned in this particular slide. So with these components of universe as well as human being, let us put them in a table like this. The component of Loka, like Panchamahabhuta, is reflected in Sharira of Purusha. The Loka component Vishwadeva is reflected as Indriya in Purusha. The Sattva component of Purusha is having a regulatory component Brahma Vibhuti in Loka. Similarly, the component of Purusha, that is Atma, is having a regulatory component Brahma in the universe. So there is need to know about this concept, which is very important one. There is need to realize this component of both Loka and Purusha, which is very important one. I mean to say, pandemic is a condition in which both Loka, Purusha and Loka Purusha Sambandha are involved much. That's what we are supposed to know. Whenever we come across with various other diseases or derangements or vyadhi, there commonly Vikriti is limited to Purusha alone. But here it is not like so. That's why in Charaka Samhita also the Nidanas are classified in this particular context as Sadharana as well as Asadharana. There are few factors which are common for this loka, universe, like Desha, Kala, Jala and Vayu. Apart from that, there are few factors which are individual specific like Ahara, Vihara and Achara. So this is an area wherein much importance has been given for universal components which are leading for the manifestation of disease. It doesn't mean that individual components should be neglected. Asadharana karanas are explained in other contexts, but present context or present situation is required to consider the universal components much. This is my second component of presentation. So we come to know about the concept of Chikitsa, how it has to be looked into, and comprehensive approach of Chikitsa, which is the need of our, which has to be incorporated in the management of pandemic, that we realized. And at the second level, we try to understand the concept of Loka Purusha, which is very essential to understand the present pandemic. Otherwise, we will not be able to understand the present pandemic situation properly. With this background, we will move on to the third component of my presentation. Prior to that, there is one more component which we are supposed to know, which is linking all the informations what I have presented till now. So that is the concept of a rhythm. We come across with mainly two types of rhythm in this universe. The universe is moving ahead only because of rhythm. So we should realize this concept, which is very important one. So that's what my pratigna was in the beginning. I said rhythm is the soul of individual. Rhythm is the soul of this universe. Now we are having derangement of this rhythm at both universe as well as individual, because of which we are facing this pandemic. So there is need to know about this rhythm, which is very important one. As I already mentioned, universe is having its own rhythm, individual is having its own rhythm. Let us try to have a look of this concept of rhythm which has been evolved these days. What is rhythm? This question comes to our mind. It has been defined that movement achieved through the placement of repeated components. So the placement of repeated components is very important one. This placement varies. So based on this one, so this rhythm has been classified into two. One we call it as exogenous rhythm, which is related with universe, whereas endogenous rhythm, which is related with the individual. So exogenous rhythm is also called as environmental rhythm, whereas endogenous rhythm is also called as personalized rhythm. Again, the rhythm has been classified like this, which has to be known. We cannot dissociate the rhythm of universe from the individual. If the individual is lost the rhythm, then there will not be existence of human being at all. Always the human being should have a rhythm which is synchronized with universal rhythm, which is very important one. So we come across with these rhythms in this universe. One we call it as circadian rhythm, which is having the shift of 24 years. We have one more type of rhythm, we call it as ultradian rhythm. Here, oscillation is taking place in the duration of 60 to 120 minutes. And the third one is called as infradian rhythm. Here, oscillation is taking place beyond 28 hours. So we should know this, it is very important one. So again, this infradian rhythm has been classified like this. The first one in infradian rhythm is called as circumseptan rhythm. So here the oscillation is taking place with a period of 7 plus or minus 3 days, either 10 or 8 or 9, like that. So if the oscillation is taking place with the duration of 7 days, then we call it as circaseptan rhythm. The second one we call it as circalunar rhythm. As the name itself says, here the oscillation is taking place with the duration of 30 days plus or minus 5 days. And circannual rhythm is the one which is oscillating with the duration of 1 year. So as I already said, knowing this is very important one. So based on this rhythmic principle only, the concept of dinacharya, concept of rutucharya, concept of sadvrutta, whatever that have been explained in Charaka Samhita are designed. So I'm not going to talk about the concept of dinacharya, rutucharya and sadvrutta. So that will be talked by some other time later. So ultimately the Swastha Chatushka of Charaka Samhita, which has been designed based on rhythm, should be reconsidered and should be re-implemented in our present day-to-day life, through which we can overcome this pandemic and we can adjust this pandemic. That's what I want to tell at this context. So knowing rhythm certainly will help us to synchronize ourselves with the universal rhythm. Yes, we all know this. We are supposed to have a rightful life. Unfortunately, somewhere the rightful life has been shifted towards unrightfulness. So now there is a need to move from adharma to dharma. Don't take the word adharma and dharma with the religious background. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about adharma and dharma with the background of knowledge. So we are not following the do's. Instead of that, we are following the don'ts. That's what I mean to say adharma here. We are supposed to follow the do's and we are supposed to shift from don'ts to do. So that's what I mean to say dharma here. So with this background, we will move on to the third component of my presentation, the concept of Janapadodhwamsa Chikitsa. So it has been explained very beautifully in Charaka Samhita. Let us try to understand this concept of Janapadodhwamsa Chikitsa. As I already told, I will not touch the previous component which has been explained already. I will directly enter to the concept which has been explained in Charaka Samhita. So here it is very specifically mentioned that Esham na mrityu samanyam samanyam nacha karmanam karma panchavidham tesham bheshajam param uchyate. So this statement of Charaka Samhita, this verse of Charaka Samhita is communicating a lot of informations. Esham na mrityu samanyam. So in present pandemic situation, just recollect this view of Charaka Samhita, which is talking a lot of interesting inputs. So here, death is not common. I mean to say, death is not universal. If a person is influenced by present pandemic situation, if the person is afflicted with the present situation, then it is not compulsory that person should have the death. Mrityu is not samanya here. This is the point what we are supposed to know, what we are supposed to realize, what we are supposed to make use of when we are doing counseling. So that's why this point of Charaka Samhita carries a lot of messages. Then he says, Nacha karmanam samanyam. So we are not supposed to go for generalized line of treatment for all the patients suffered from the present pandemic. Even though all of them they exposed to the same condition, it is not compulsory that we are supposed to incorporate the same line of treatment. I want to stress this point. It is not like a person is having jwara, or many people they are having jwara. Directly we cannot advise Amrutaristam for all the patients. We cannot advise Mrityunjaya Rasa for all the patients, or we cannot advise Samshamanivati for all the patients, because all the patients are suffering from jwara. It is not like that. That's what this particular pros is talking about, and that's what we are supposed to keep in our mind whenever we are going to manage this particular situation. The next component in this particular shloka is also very important one. Karma panchavidham tesham bheshajam param uchyate. So it is Panchavidha karma, that is Panchakarma, which is said to be the best in the management. Of course, we have many challenges. We will talk about that later. So first, let us talk about the views provided by our ancestors. Then we will move on to the application values of these treatment modalities. So next he says Rasayananam vidhivattacha upayogah prashasyate. So here also we take the word rasayana, the second component we neglect, that is vidhivattacha upayogah. It is not like nowadays we talk only about immunity boosters. Even patients too, they demand, they request for immunity boosters, and we equate rasayana to immunity boosters, and we prescribe rasayanas with same thinking. Actually, it is not like so. Rasayana is one mode of management which has been explained in Charaka Samhita, which is focusing much on the component of Ayu. How the quality of Ayu can be enhanced, that is explained in the context of Rasayana. That's why the benefits of Rasayana are explained like Dirgham Ayuhu, Smritim Medha, like that. So that point should be kept in our mind, which is very important one. And the second one, it is vidhivattacha prayogaha. It is not random administration. It is not erratic administration. It is systemic administration, which we are supposed to know. Rasayananam vidhivattacha prayogaha. So please note this point whenever we are supposed to manage the situation. Administration of rasayana should be based on vidhi. It doesn't mean that always we should go for kuti praveshika. It is not like that. It should be judicial administration. That's what the word vidhi is speaking about in this particular context. Then he says, shasyate deha vrittischa bheshajaihi purvam uddhrataihi. This point is something tricky, and it's something interesting what we are supposed to know. Somewhere we created imbalance in this ecosystem. So in this imbalanced ecosystem, do we get quality medicine? That's the question. So there is need to reconsider the re-establishment of quality ecosystem, which is very essential for us. That's what the lesson which has been provided in Charaka Samhita in this particular context. We are not only supposed to focus on human being, we created disturbance in this cosmos, we created disturbance in this nature, we created imbalance in this universe that has to be reconstructed by we people only, because it is a mistake done by we people. That's what adharma means. Don't take the word adharma in the religious background. That's what I want to specify once again. So later we get some other interesting points here. Satyam bhutedaya danam balayo devatarchanam. The next component here, that is sadvrittasya anuvrittischa. Sadvrittasya anuvartana is a very important component which has to be implemented now. So what this sadvritti is? We are supposed to have satam vritti in three components related with ahara, related with vihara, related with achara. So how to reconsider sadvritta, that we will talk about later, but incorporation of sadvritta is a very essential component now for the management of present pandemic. So later we get the same descriptions like hitam janapadanam cha. So we are supposed to be more responsible towards the society. As a society has been disturbed, society is affected much more than the individual. It is a society which has been affected. It is universe which has been affected much now. So individual is having more responsibility towards universe, towards society now, which has been mentioned here. Shivanam upasevanam, whatever possible, do good always, which is very important one. Next, he says brahmacharyasya tathaiva brahmacharinam. So here the word brahmacharya, it is talking about discipline which is required in different components of life, which is very important. When many times we equate brahmacharya to celibacy, but brahmacharya is beyond that. We are supposed to have brahmajnana. To have that brahmajnana, whatever the lifestyle we are supposed to incorporate, that's what we call it as brahmacharya. So knowing this is very important. When we are supposed to be realized much about self, we are supposed to be realized much about universe, we are supposed to be realized much about the process of synchronization between the universe and individual, and for that whatever the effort an individual is supposed to put, we call it as brahmacharya. So incorporating, following brahmacharya at this level is very important for all of us. Don't restrict the concept of brahmacharya to gender. It is not related with gender. It is not related with any component of sexual life. It is more than that. Of course, some part is related with disciplinary aspects related with sexual life, but the concept of brahmacharya is beyond that. It is a technical term which is having wide range of application, what we are supposed to know. Moving ahead, related with the management of Janapadodhwamsa Vikara sected in Charaka Samhita, like Sankatha Dharmashastranam, Maharshinam Jitatmanam, Dharmikaihi Satvikaihi Nityam, Sahasya Vruddha Sammataihi. So here it is talking about some social norms, it is talking about some spiritual norms. Don't consider these components with the background of religion. So when we view the views of Charaka Samhita with the background of religion, then we restrict our views and we will not realize the real inputs of Charaka Samhita. So keep the eyes open, then understanding the views of Charaka Samhita will be very easy for us. So finally, he concludes, Ityetat bheshajam proktam ayushah paripalanam. Once again, the term ayushah paripalanam is very important here. Our focusing point, excuse me, our focusing point in the management of Janapadodhwamsa Vikara is always towards Ayushaha Paripalanam. It is not Ayushaha Palanam, it is Paripalanam. So much more precaution, much more discipline, much more systemic view we are supposed to incorporate for the maintenance of Ayu, which is very important one. So now let us try to understand the practicality of these components. Mainly we come across with the three treatment modes which are mentioned in Charaka Samhita, Janapadodhwamsaniyam Vimanam. One is a Panchakarma, second one is a Rasayana, third one is a Sadvrittasya Anuvritti or Sadvrittasya Anupalanam. So let us try to see few practicality about this one, because my title itself is application. So when the question of Panchakarma comes, which type of Panchakarma has to be incorporated here? That's the question. We are supposed to advise the people to have Rutu Panchakarma or Rutu Shodhana, which is very important one. And second one, we are supposed to advise the people to undergo Vyadhi Panchakarma depending on the clinical presentation. There is one challenge which should be kept in mind. Without knowing Vyadhi Bala and Vyadhita Bala, that is Roga Bala and Rogi Bala, we are not supposed to incorporate Panchakarma. So we should keep these two components in mind. Along with these, we have 10 Pariksha Bhavas explained in Charaka Samhita, like Prakriti, Vikriti, Sara, Samhanana, Sattva, Satmya, and so on. These 10 factors should be considered, and accordingly, the Panchakarma should be incorporated. Of course, we have different modified forms of Panchakarma, like we have different indications and contraindications. Where all we come across with contraindications, we have optional administration of Panchakarmas, we have modified administrations of Panchakarma. So we should know these principles. Based on this, we are supposed to incorporate appropriate suitable Panchakarma. It might be Vamana or Virechana or Vabhasti or Nasya or Raktamokshana or Sadyovamana or Sadyo Virechana, whatever it might be. We have so many modes. All those modes will be applicable can be incorporated at different levels of managing the present pandemic. But the point to be remembered here is the consideration of both Rogabala and Rogibala. So if Rogabala and Rogibala are not in favor of Panchakarma, then we cannot go for them. Then what to do? Answer has been given in Charaka Samhita itself, that we will see later. So moving on to the application of Rasayana, that's what I mentioned earlier. The points to be considered are Prakriti, Vyadhi and Vyadhita. So considering these three, Rasayanas should be followed. I will not talk about the Rasayanas to be given. As I already said, I am only giving the concepts to be considered for practicality. So here, knowing Prakriti is very important one, because Rasayanas are acting as per Prakriti. Knowing Vyadhi is very important one, because we have the description of Naimitika Rasayanas and they are meant to be administered based on Vyadhi. Of course, knowing Vyadhita, Rogi, Rasayana should be selected. So we should know that, which is a very important one. So then only whatever Rasayanas we advise, they will provide the expected result. So while administering Rasayana, these 3 points should be kept in mind. Moving on to the third component, that is Sadvrittasya Anuvritti. I already mentioned it. So now there is need to reconsider the concept of Sadvritta for present scenario. So whatever description we have in Indriyopakramaniyam Adhyayam of Sutrasthana of Charaka Samhita, Sadvritta has been explained and explored extensively. All these principles of Sadvritta, they fall under these categories. There are few components which fall under protective measures. It has been mentioned that we should protect our body, we should protect our head. While walking, we should protect ourselves by falling and all. And we should have proper gait, something of that kind, whatever the descriptions we have. So all these descriptions, they fall under protective measure. Then we have dietetic measures in Sadvritta, wherein it has been mentioned that Matra, Shi, Sat. So there are so many disciplines related with food consumption, food preparation, food selection are given in the context of Sadvritta. I'm talking about the disciplines explained in the context of Sadvritta. In the context of Ahara, whatever we have, that comes under another component which will be dealt by some other scholars of our college later. Aesthetic measures are also explained in Sadvritta, which carries a lot of value, which we are supposed to know. We should give importance for our apparels, because our apparels are designed based on, once again, the rhythm, which I already mentioned. So we come across with so many seasonal variations, we come across with so many diurnal variations. Accordingly, apparels have been specified, mentioned in our ancient texts, and we are supposed to follow that so that we can get tuned with the universe. The fourth one is a social measures. We, human being, is a component of society. Human is not dissociated component from the society. We are supposed to follow certain discipline related with the society, which has been mentioned, like we should respect elders, we should respect teachers, whatever the descriptions that have been given in the text, that should be followed, which is very important one. Few therapeutic measures are also explained under Sadvritta, which are very important one, like Taila Nityam. Regularly, we are supposed to make use of oil to put on our head, and Shiro Abhyanga should be done, Karana Purana should be done. So like that, even though these descriptions, they come under Dinacharya, again, these components are mentioned in Sadvritta Charaka Samhita specifically, which we are supposed to follow. And spiritual measures, of course, it depends on belief system, but we cannot neglect it. The life is moving, life is going on based on the belief system. So every person is having his own belief. He might not be believing God, whatever it might be, but a person who is not having belief in the sense is a person who is living without life. So that's why every individual will have life, every individual will have faith in his own life. So realizing it is spirituality. Spirituality is nothing more than that. So many times, excuse me, it's very challenging to realize the self. For that, we have different modes in the form of religion. That comes in another part. I'm not going to touch that. But following spiritual measures certainly will add up quality to our life. That's why we have to follow that. There are some purificatory measures. We know we have to maintain the hygiene. Nowadays, repeatedly we come across this information through all the media. Wash repeatedly in Kannada, tolibeku, like that. Everywhere we get this information. So there is need to consider and reconsider this one, which is very important one. When it has been mentioned in the text, we used to laugh at it. But when now it has been propagated in the media, now we started sensing it. That's what we say, isn't it? ಮನೇಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಯಾವುದು ನಮಗೆ ಹಿತ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸಲ್ಲ. Many times we feel that whatever our elders, our parents, they say, we never realize its importance. But now it's the time to reconsider all those practices. Of course, professional management is very important one, which is once again touched in Sadvrita in the form of ergonomics. Nowadays, the branch of ergonomics is coming into picture, but Ayurveda speaks about ergonomics long back, wherein we have extensive description about this one, how to manage our profession, how emotionally we have to manage our profession, how physical proficiency in the profession should be enhanced. It might be by adjusting with the sitting posture, everything. So all these informations are given in Sadvrita, and that has to be followed, which is very important one. So I have just mentioned the relevance and the applicability of Sadvrita in this particular context. Details will be once again provided by other scholars later. Now, let us reconsider the concept of Chikitsa, which is very important one. So we come to know about the application of Daivapashya Chikitsa in Janapadodhwamsa Vikara Chikitsa. We come to know the application of Yuktiyapashya Chikitsa in Janapadodhwamsa Vikaras. We observed the application of Sattvavajaya Chikitsa in the management of Janapadodhwamsa Vikaras. Let us try to blend all these informations now. Daivapashya Chikitsa is having the key of divinity. Don't look into Daivapashya Chikitsa with the background of religion. When we look into Daivapashya Chikitsa with the background of religion, then we will not be able to understand the expansive view of Daivapashya Chikitsa. Ultimately, Daivapashya Chikitsa is focusing on divinity which is present in the universe. So there is need to consider the management of ecosystem now. So in present pandemic situation, each and every individual is having his own responsibility in managing the ecosystem. That is possible through Daivapashya Chikitsa, which has been mentioned in Charaka Samhita. So I already mentioned about Yuktiyapashya Chikitsa, which is targeting towards the individual. So it is rationale based management. So here management should be planned based on the person. So it is talking about personalized management depending on different presentation of a present pandemic. It might be mild, it might be moderate, it might be severe, it might be intensive care, or it might be asymptomatic and symptomatic. It might be absence of morbidity, presence of morbidity, whatever might be the presentation of a present pandemic at different levels. Certainly the principles of Ayurveda are applicable, so that can be planned, that has to be planned based on Yuktiyapashya Chikitsa. We call it as personalized management. Of course, Sattvavajaya Chikitsa helps an individual to adjust himself with society and family. So there is a need to consider about this one. We all know what the situation of children, we all know what the situation of a family, we all know what the situation of different professions. So that can be balanced, that can be managed with the concept of Sattvavajaya Chikitsa. With this background, when we move on to Charaka Samhita, Janapadodhwamsa Chikitsa, once again, we have some interesting informations here, what I want to say once again, because Janapadodhwamsa Nidanam, Janapadodhwamsa Vimana chapter has been designed exclusively based on Purusha and Lokam. So individual management has been focused here. Universe-based management has been focused here. So universe-based management has been reflected in Charaka Samhita here. The importance of Ushna Jala has been explained in the same context. Prior to that, One interesting point has been introduced in Charaka Samhita. Generally, it is a jvara, which is the common manifestation in almost all Janapadodhwamsa vikaras. It might be the initial manifestation, or it might be the presentation in between, or it might be the presentation in the later stage. Somewhere in the course of Janapadodhwamsa vikara, there will be presence of jvara. Jvara is a condition which gets influenced by the situation in the universe, that is Ushna and Shita. We cannot change the Ushnatva and Shitatva in university. Sorry, in universe. That is universal thermoregulation we cannot do. But one option is there. Individual can get adjusted with this universal thermal changes. So Ushnatva and Shitatva can be seen in the universe. So accordingly to the changes of universe in Ushna and Shita, person can modify himself. That has been explained in terms of Ushnajala. So Ushnajala is a technical term. Ushnajala is not equal to warm water. I will not talk about that one. So technically we are supposed to know about Ushnajala, and Ushnajala has to be incorporated. Ushnajala has to be advised to the patients who are suffering from this pandemic, and people who want to prevent the condition, they too should follow this, which is very important one. So to adjust, to get tuned with the universe, we are supposed to follow this. So universal change certainly will influence the individual. That's why to get adjust with the universal change, the person should follow this. This is very important one. Of course, the different effects of Ushnajala are mentioned here. I'm not going to explain them in detail. My message here to give you all is to follow this. That's all. The second component here which has been mentioned is incorporation of supplementation and deplementation of the nutrients, which is very important one. Janapadodhwamsa vikara is one which is going to present either with the expectation of some supplementation or the expectation of some deplementation. That's why three modes of treatment have been mentioned here. First, the treatment classification has been given as Samtarpana as well as Apatarpana, which are individual targeted. Santarpana is talking about supplementive therapy, whereas Apatarpana is talking about depletive management principles. So Santarpana has to be incorporated, that supplementation has to be followed wherever there is depletion. Depletive measures should be incorporated wherever there is excessive supplementation. So again, how to incorporate this apatarpana, that has been explained extensively here. I will not explain that in detail. Three modes have been explained. One is langhana, langhana pachana, and doshavasechana. Once again, we are supposed to reconsider this concept with the background of panchakarma, what I already explained. Here, consideration of langhana, langhana pachana, doshavasechana for the management is again based on rogabala and rogibala. So if rogabala and rogibala are mild, we should go for langhana, and if rogabala and rogibala are moderate, then we should go for langhana pachana, whereas if rogabala and rogibala are strong enough, then we should go for doshavasechana. That has been explained in detail once again in the same context. Let me club these two views now. As I already mentioned about Shitoshna Upakrama in the management of Janapadodhwamsa vikara, Shitoshna Upakramas are mentioned keeping the universal changes in mind, whereas Santarpana, Apatarpana Upakramas are mentioned depending on the individual condition in mind. I mean to say, to normalize, to get adjust with the rhythm variation in universe, we are supposed to follow Shita Ushna Upakrama. To get adjust with the variation in biological rhythm, we are supposed to follow Santarpana, Apatarpana. Again, the different varieties of Apatarpana like Langhana, Langhana Pachana, and Doshavasechana. Let me put my views in the triad of this particular pandemic with Trisutra of Janapadodhwamsa like this. We know host, agent, and environment, these three are regulating, controlling this whole pandemic. We know this. So Ayurveda speaks about everything in a different way in its own perspective. So here again, we have three modes here: the Chikitsa, Janapadodhwamsa, Lokapurusha Samya. So knowing Chikitsa, the concept of Chikitsa, comprehensive management, is mandatory for us. Then only it will be easy for us to know the individual, to know the universe, to know the association between universe and individual, to balance the derangement when it manifests. And second one, we know Lokapurusha Samya, because if we don't know the components of universe, if we don't know the components of individual, then supplementation and depletion, whatever we are going to do, that is not possible. The third one, we should realize what this Janapadodhwamsa is with the background of dharma, what I mentioned earlier. If we know that, then understanding of Janapadodhwamsa will be more appropriate, and handling the present pandemic situation will be more easier one. We have a comprehensive approach. We have a journey of management from diversity towards comprehensive approach, or I mean to say from divergence towards convergence. We have the management strategy which is based on the principles of isolation to association. I mean to say, isolation is not only possible to be incorporated for the management of different diseases, it is association which is very essential for the management of different diseases, especially Janapadodhwamsa vikaras. So when we understand these three sutras of Janapadodhwamsa explained in Charaka Samhita, then certainly whenever, wherever there is an opportunity, there is a scope for us to manage Janapadodhwamsa vikaras, certainly people of Ayurveda, we can contribute a lot in the management of this present endemic situation. So if we have the clarity about the concepts explained in Charaka Samhita, certainly we can face the situation. Our goal is to increase, enhance the qualities of individual. Our goal is to enhance the qualities of this universe. Our goal is to focus on synchronization of the association between universe as well as an individual. When we have this knowledge, when we realize it, when there is tattva, when there is prabodhana, certainly there will be satya buddhi. That's what Charaka Samhita speaks about. Let us have a journey towards this satya buddhi. Hope now all of us we sensitized about tattva, Janapadodhwamsa and Prabodhini Anusthana. There is long way to go. That's what I presented here. It's a big way which is open for all of us to reach that target, Satya Buddhi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I thank Dr. Shreevathsa sir for very informative and beautiful presentation, and I also providing a new insight towards the concept of Janapadodhwamsa. Our fifth scientific session is going to begin from 2:30 by Dr. Praveen sir and Dr. Rekha madam. Please stay tuned with Tattva Prabodhini YouTube channel. Thank you one and all.